Rome had been born, but a city of men alone cannot stand. There were no wives, no mothers, no children to carry its name. Without families, Rome would wither before it could grow. Romulus knew this, and so he sought alliances. He sent envoys to the neighboring cities of Latium. He asked for daughters in marriage, for blood ties to bind them, for peace built through family. But the cities of Latium laughed, who would give their daughters to a city of outcasts and thieves, would marry their bloodlines to a city with no past. And so Rome was scorned. But Romulus would not let his dream die. If the cities would not give, then Rome would take. The plan was set, a festival was declared, and Rome invited the neighboring peoples. The Sabines, the Latins, the men of Canina. A grand celebration filled with feasts and games and drink. The guests came, unsuspecting of what awaited them. At Romulus' signal, the Roman men seized the daughters of their guests. The women cried out, the fathers and brothers raged, but the Romans held fast. It was an act of boldness, an act of cruelty, but in Romulus's eyes, it was survival. These women would become the mothers of Rome. The future of the city was now written in their hands. Year 2, Rome's name was spoken with anger, and soon, with war, the men of Latium were preparing for battle. Their spears were sharp, their shields were strong, their chariots were swift. They would teach the newcomers the meaning of fear. But Rome was ready. For 7 months they had trained, had prepared. This was their chance to prove themselves, to show that Rome was more than a band of thieves and outcasts. It was a city forged in blood and fire, a city that would not bend. The armies met outside the city walls. The clash of bronze on bronze echoed across the plain. The dust rose, obscuring the sun. The air grew thick with the stench of sweat and blood, but neither side gave ground. Day turned to night, and still the battle raged. The men of Latium were fierce, but the Romans were relentless. They fought for their homes, for their families, for their very survival. And as the moon climbed high in the sky, the tide turned. The Romans, with a surge of adrenaline, pushed forward. Their spears found their marks, their swords cut deep. The men of Latium, exhausted and outnumbered, began to fall. One by one, their shields were broken, their weapons were lost, their cries of defiance fading into the night. By the pale light of the moon, the Romans stood victorious, their bodies battered, their spirits unbroken. The war was over. Latium was theirs, and as the sun rose over the horizon, Rome knew it had come of age, now proven in battle. Its strength was no longer just a dream, but a reality forged in blood. Year 2. The foundations of power were laid. And this was only the beginning.